that nobody wants to work anymore, or they just don't want to work for you. And the reason they don't want to work for you is because you've not taken this system and process advice, captured it, so everything is now still stuck up in your head, and I don't have access to that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Process Lab. I'm your host, Sam Drawshak, and I'm delighted to have Scott Beebe with me in the room today. Hey Scott.
Hey Sam, good morning.
So Scott Beebe is an experienced speaker, author, and podcast host. He is a business coach, experienced with working with business owners in the construction, law, and medical spaces, and he's also the founder of Business on Purpose. Scott founded Business on Purpose because he saw that there was a need to help business owners who are weighed down by chaos to have a clear vision when it comes to the success and future of their business. He created the Business on Purpose roadmap to liberate businesses from the chaos of working in their businesses and help them get their lives back. So it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for the intro. On Process Lab, as everyone knows, we like to talk about all manner of process, systems, operations topics. I know, Scott, you had mentioned you have your own definition of process and your own basically methods and paradigm within your coaching and within your business. I would love to just start with hearing maybe a little bit more about Business on Purpose or your business, and then we can talk about what you think about process and systems.
Yeah, great thoughts, Sam. And I think for anybody who has a T-shirt that says "Spreadsheets Change Lives" or a sweater that is nothing but an Excel spreadsheet, like I do in my closet, I do have both. This is the type of podcast that I'm probably most excited about, to be able to talk about this. But you're right. I think if you lined 10 of us up that are in this world and said, "Hey, give me your definition of system and or process," I think you're probably going to get nuance all around. For us, we've put it very simply. We believe every business owner between 4 and 100 employees faces perennial problems, meaning they resurface over and over and over again. But we've categorized those in 4 different categories. Purpose, so a problem of purpose, a problem of people, organizational structure, hiring, et cetera. A problem of profit, cash comes in, but it seems to fly out a lot faster. And then ultimately and quintessentially, based on your podcast, a problem of process. And so what we've done internally for ourselves is we try to help our owners understand that process and system, while they go together, we feel like they're very different things. So I think if we could look metaphorically and think about a car, you have the braking system of a car. So that's the whole scope of the braking system. But within that system, you have various processes that have to interact. The pads have to interact on the rotors and all the way. Hydraulics, that's about as far deep as I'll go into a braking system. That's about all I know. Then you've got the powertrain system of a car. Then you've got the electronics system of a car. It's a lot like a human body, is that we've got these massive systems, cardiovascular, endoskeletal, those sorts of things. But then there are tens, hundreds, thousands, little tactics, little bits that are happening. We call those processes. And so we believe that every single business has 4 major systems and then hundreds or thousands of processes that make up those systems. So the 4 systems in this order, by the way, we believe. Marketing, number 1, it tells the world that we're here. Hey, we're over here. Sales is where we go from that sort of group dating relationship. I know that may not be entirely appropriate, but just go with the metaphor. But we're sort of group dating. And then we narrow it down and we start to walk down the aisle of sales. And we get married as provider and client down at the altar. And once we've made that vow together, you, client, agree that you're going to follow the lead of everything that me, provider, is offering. Then we go into marriage, which is operations. So that's our 3rd major system. And that's production operations. That's where we're actually fulfilling the service. So we're fulfilling the vow that we made at sales. And then finally is what we call administration. That houses accounting and HR and some of those things that you've got a young child. You got to change diapers, you got to change light bulbs, mow the grass, do all of that stuff. And so that's just day-to-day life. Where you go to bed, you might wake up 2 a.m. or whatever. That's the administrative system. And so that's sort of our metaphorical definition. Processes sit within 4 major systems in a business.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great intro. So I like the idea of the systems, and especially you're saying those 4 systems are what you've categorized as the universal systems, and everything in all businesses slot into that. And then there's all these sub-processes essentially that fulfill the obligations of the system. I would love to just start actually with, where did the 4 systems come from? Because especially when you talk about words like operations, administration, these are very packed terms. Is this something that you've developed over your career working with businesses, or where did that system construct and how you've organized it? Because it's a unique take. So I'd love to know a little bit of background there.
Yeah, core to everything that we do. In fact, I mentioned spreadsheets earlier. We really do believe they change lives. We love software. We love software. The challenge with software and business owners is that business owners jump into software way too quickly under the presumption that it's going to solve everything for them. It's kind of like that mantra that sales solves everything. I actually disagree with that. I think sales magnifies everything that already exists. It's kind of like marriage. If you got problems going into marriage, all marriage is going to do is magnify the problems that already exist. If you got love going into marriage, then marriage will magnify the love that already exists. And so marriage is a magnifying glass. I've heard it said before. And sales itself is a magnifying glass, and it will throw fuel on anything that already exists. So if chaos already exists, then it'll throw fuel on it. And a lot of times we think software is the same thing. God, there's so much going on in my head. If I could just get software, and then we work with the software, we realize that the user's only using about 18% of the capability of the actual software that's being done. And it's creating more frustration and actually counteracting what they look to do. And so as we started to see this in our clients, we've been around 9.5 years. We'll turn 10 here in just a few months. And so as we started to interact with our clients, we realized, wait a second, part of our jobs as coaches and advisors is we need to simplify for everybody. And we found that spreadsheets simplify. And so our rule is with our clients, hey, prove to us and yourself that you can use a spreadsheet for 3 months, and then we'll migrate into that powerful software. We know exactly what you need the spreadsheet to do, so you can talk to the software provider about all of that. So there's great clarity. It actually creates a much longer relationship for the software company than if we just say, hey, go buy this and get on with it. And so as we started to simplify around day-to-day process, we realized that we needed to create a construct to where the business owner understood how their business, if it's good enough for the human body, and then when you go to talk to any doctor, they've all been trained fundamentally on the 12 major systems of the human body. And from there, they can diagnose. Well, business owners, we felt like needed some measure of diagnostic to be able to go, okay, before I dive into this problem, what vertical am I talking about here? And quite honestly, once we got past administration into accounting and HR, those felt a little small for us until a business is over 100 employees. Right. Then you've got a full-scale HR department. So maybe, yeah, you can add that downstream. I've got a meeting with a group all day Monday. They've got 425 employees. So they've got a dedicated HR department. But for the business owner under 100 employees, let's just keep it simple with those 4 verticals.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So there's a lot of intelligence there in your answer. And part of it is around software matching, right? And a lot of it also, I'd like to point out, and I think this is right, it's about the scale too. So those systems work for that 4 to 100 scale. And you kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, if we scale to an enterprise level, we might need to break out more systems because they would be much more robust. So that helps me understand kind of where the context you're coming from. But I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, because you have this system model and it's tailored for a particular size and scale of growth. And like you said, maybe medical practices, legal practices, but it's good because there's not a universal that's going to fit all sizes in some ways. So having that custom fit for that scale makes sense to me. And then the other thing you talk about is this idea that the systems almost like match the actual IT systems that you work with, right? It's a lot easier to say, hey, if you've got a bunch of SaaS products, what system are they aligned to? Because like I'm hearing as you're describing it, it's almost as if those systems match sort of the most common SaaS products that you might go into after the spreadsheet phase, which I love, which is sort of that last point you made. And, if anyone who's listening has heard me go on and on about requirements before you do configuration, this is what you're talking about, right? Use the MVP, use Excel, and prove that you understand the data flow and the mechanics. And then after that, you'll help them automate. Is that sort of the logic behind that?
Well, and the theory is it makes it easier for people like you in the software space to meet expectations and exceed expectations as well. So when you've got a client that comes to you, you mentioned segmenting whatever software you've got. We work with a lot of contractors. They use a tool called Buildertrend. And you look at Buildertrend, and in our mind, when we first started working with clients, we'd go, oh, that in our head, it was an ERP. It was full scale, full scope. It would serve the entire business. What we ended up finding over time is it's heavily niched in operations. reasonably heavily niched in accounting, and then marginally niched in marketing, but not at all in sales, which in the construction space is really estimating. And so it was not a good estimating tool. And so we had to come back to our clients and go, hey, this is not an ERP, this is not a full scale solution for your business. What this is a segmented. So the people in these verticals, by the way, the org chart matches this. So your org chart, if you're under 100 employees, should be a marketing vertical, a sales vertical, an operations or production vertical, and an administrative vertical. And so you can go back to that vertical. Everything hinges there organizationally. And you can say, hey, the people in these verticals are the ones that will be interacting with the segmentation of this software. And so it does allow you to be a little bit more tailored in how that works, but it also keeps the ERP conversation on the horizon. And it doesn't make you think you're bigger than you are. And that's what gets a lot of people as well. I'm all about 10X over 2X, Dan Sullivan, all that kind of stuff. And yet at the same time, there's too many people that get over their skis because they start to bring in a Mack truck when really all they needed was a small Ford pickup right now.
Yeah. Well, especially with software, like you said, and everyone wants the one software to be the magic bullet across all the systems. And it's really just not what any of them were made for. And it's not realistic.
Yeah.
So at a high level, that makes a ton of sense how you're thinking about it. But then let's go and drop down to the process level now that we've set the stage, right? So when you talk about process work, process management, process analysis that then supports those systems, that then supports possibly IT systems, what is that process work to you in your world? How do you define process? What do you do? How do you help your clients with process specifically?
Yeah, great question. So again, dumb it down, bottom shelf. And when I say dumb it down, I'm talking to me. So we try to build this in such a way that my little mind can understand it. We tell our clients all the time, hey, explain this in such a way that a kindergartner can do it. And so when we think about process, it intimidates people. I don't know how to document process. And you're like, whoa, get out your phone. The next time you install a can light, put your phone on a tripod and just install the can light. There's a process. We've got this wonderful screen capture. I just heard a couple of weeks ago that Loom got sold for like $920 million or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Pretty crazy. It's actually a fascinating article because the founder talks about how much of a deep depression he's gone in since he sold it. It's a whole nother purpose discussion around that. But you've got this wonderful tool that we started using right when it came out. And we use it all the time. We actually use Vimeo a lot more now because they've got an embedded tool that you can screen capture. But there is screen capture software everywhere. A lot of it's just for free. I actually recommend the free version of Loom because you can only do 5-minute recordings. And most people aren't going to watch a 30-minute recording. Yeah. But they'll watch 8 5-minute. I know that's not the math, but they'll watch 8 5-minute recordings. And so we actually recommend using the free version of some sort of screen capture software. And the next time you do it, so we have something called the systems mindset. It should probably be called the process mindset, but now it's embedded in our culture, so we really can't change it. So we call it the systems mindset, and here's what it says. The next time you do a thing, capture it like it's the last time you'll ever do that thing. Not super novel, but true. The next time you go do accounting, the next time you go do a manufacturing process, the next time you go do AP, AR, estimating, whatever it might be, click record and record it like it's the last time you'll ever do it. And the good news is, if anybody has any questions about it, all you have to say is, hey, just hit rewind. I did the whole thing. And so if you got any clarifying questions, all you have to do is you don't need to come go, hey, can I pick your brain? One of the most dangerous phrases in all of business. And instead just go, hey, go click rewind. I've got the whole process there. So really that systems mindset is what we go after. And the reason we use the word capture, it's a good Mike McAllowitz word. We use capture because it kind of covers documentation, screen recording, camera recording, whatever it is. You capture that in a recorded methodology so that the next person downstream can go do it. And that's ultimately what we're trying to get after.
Okay. And I have a million things there. So let me actually start with one, which is I love that you use the word capture. It's something that I've used in my whole career and process also. And I don't think it's commonly spread enough because you're not creating a process. You're capturing a process that's already in motion. I think that is a big difference, when you use that word capture. So yeah, I can't upvote that or like that comment enough. And for everybody, just getting your mindset around you're capturing a data set that's already live is a big one in process. But as far as I have one actually more light comment when you talk about doing it like the last time you're going to do it, I think I understand the intention, but I'd love to know the history of that, because if I was going to do something for the last time and I'd done it for 10 years, I might kind of do it kind of sloppily. So I'm trying to think, what's the heart behind the instruction when you tell people like to do it like you do it the last time?
Yeah, well, the heart behind it was to actually motivate them to go, wait a second, there's a chance I don't have to ever do this again.
Oh, there. Okay.
And so there's sort of this optimism, this motivation, and then that's where we come back and go, hey, teach me like I'm a kindergartner. Step one, step two, and talk it out. The beauty of screen recording is you can actually talk while you move the thing around, and it'll record the whole thing, record what's on your screen, record what you're saying, record you on video if you want it. And so you can even do little side-by-sides and all kind of stuff. So it feels like a training video, but really all you're doing is just the thing. And so that's a misnomer we've had to train our clients on. They're like, I'm not a good trainer. I'm like, you train all day. Every single day you train. Every time you have a marketing conversation, you're training. Every time you do an estimate, you're training. Every element, every task that you do, you're training. Now, I am not a fan of a new employee showing up day one and just going, hey, come in the truck with me. Come sit with me and just watch what I do. I think it's a miserable babysitting offensive way to hire somebody. And yet, if you would do all the pre-work of that and capture you riding in the truck, capture you on the computer, and then set up a 4-week onboarding system, which we have and we have all of our clients do, day one, hour one, day one, hour two, day one, hour three, what are they doing? They're watching those videos. They're reading those documents. They're listening into the things that they've seen and heard that you've already captured before. And guess what they feel like? They feel cared for and not having to be babysat their first 4 weeks. And when we get questions all the time, this phrase that I'll hear when we go out and speak, hey, Scott, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to work anymore. And we're like, I don't think that's true. I've got a 23, 21, and 20-year-old that grew up in my house. All three of them desperately want to work, like really, really want to work. And not just like YouTube work. They want to do actual work in classroom. One wants to work on welding. One is building a technology app for college students right now. Like they want to do real work. So is it that nobody wants to work anymore, or they just don't want to work for you? And the reason they don't want to work for you is because you've not taken this system and process advice, captured it. So everything is now still stuck up in your head, and I don't have access to that. So my first day in the office, guess what? Because I'm perceptive, meaning anybody is perceptive. I'm going to see that you have not done the careful work, and I'm using that word intentionally too, the careful work to capture everything that's in your head or in process to give to me. And now guess what? You got to make it up as you go, and you got to babysit me for the first 4 weeks. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start looking for my next job. Now, I'm not going to leave for another year, but I'm going to go ahead and start looking for my next job because I realized from day one, this is not the place I want to be.
Yeah, and you're dropping a lot of wisdom in so many deep categories here. So I just want to call it out, and I really appreciate it because, training by shadowing, which is really what Scott's talking about here, is one of the most ineffective, costly, and miserable processes that small businesses have. And if you think it's saving you money by just throwing people in for a few weeks and having them watch your current people, absolutely not. And like Scott said, the turnover, like young people today are just, they expect a better experience. We've been trained to expect better experiences, tutorials, structured training. So if you think you're going to pull the wool over our eyes, I think really listen to Scott here, because this is it's a big problem with scalability.
My son-in-law, Sam, just got hired by a church. And this church has 250 staff. They have like all these campuses and all this stuff. And you would think when you walked in, it was this big kind of show, light, smoke kind of church. It's not. It's a very kind of moderate, humble, just sort of a normal Sunday morning church. And so you're like, how did it get this big? So he went in for his first day this past Monday. He sent me about 6 pictures, his new hire box with his name imprinted on it. In the box, he had a mug, he had a book, he had a notebook. He had his first day instructions, hour by hour, of what his first day looked like. He had his first 4-week instructions of what his first 4 weeks looks like. He showed up to his desk. They had a brand new desk, a brand new laptop, a sweatshirt, and some other whatever funky thing, because he'd be working with students. So they give him all kind of that kind of stuff. And so the reality is, does that guy want to go anywhere? Absolutely not. He's never had an experience like that, even though he's worked at other places. And so you wonder how these organizations get to be this size. Some get there in spite of themselves. I get it, and I'll admit that. But most get there because of a level of intentionality where we have taken care before they ever showed up to process the experience. And once we process the experience, then we can just shadow for fun because we want to. That's great. But we're not shadowing because we have to. And that's where most people are at. They use the strategy of, well, we're just going to throw them to the wolves. You know, I learned to swim by my grandpa just throwing me in. Well, good. The other 6 people who did that drowned. And so we're not going to, that's not good statistics to be able to follow. So let's follow healthy statistics of getting this stuff captured, showing genuine care and authenticity. And if we want to know how to build a great culture, that's how you do it. Whatever ingredients you intentionally plant, that's the fruit that's going to intentionally grow.
Yeah, for sure. And it's such good advice, especially for smaller companies that are looking to retain talent. And then another thing you mentioned around this topic, I want to take a step or two back just to make sure we're pulling out some of these useful nuggets. Keeping the videos and the data short is key, right? Because process can be very dense and it can be very large and complex data sets. But I really like how you talked about people won't watch it. Like, you have to tailor your content and your process data, is what I always call it, to an audience that can consume it, right? So keeping your videos short, keeping your documents short,
yes,
keeping everything bite-sized. I think that's super critical. And I just wanted to highlight, that's a very important thing for people to know, because no matter what kind of medium you use, don't make it for yourself, right? You got to make it for somebody who will actually watch it, who's never looked at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to take one step further back and ask you, so you're telling people to capture all their business processes within the system, but I just wanted to make sure I understood how you're thinking about, is it all of it? Do you prioritize? How do you get businesses to focus on what aspects of process? Because a system can be, if you talk about, I want to document all the processes in your marketing system or your sales system, that can be very nuanced and very dense depending on the detail level. So how do you help and clients think about what is a process in terms of level of detail, and how much do we actually need to go through to be effective?
Yeah, this is a question that, if not answered properly, can paralyze owners, and we don't want to do that. Paralyze them from capturing this sort of thing. So here's sort of the rule of thumb that we have. This is what we train on: is within the system, go down and we run this little exercise. It's called a NPR brain dump. Master process roadmap is what we have. It's a big process. All it is a spreadsheet. And under each category, marketing, sales, ops, admin, you brain dump all the macro level process. For instance, marketing, website, social channels. Each one of those is its own process. Now, you could go into your website and go the contact page. That's all under website. Don't get lost in that. Just build it out. And usually with something with a website, that's going to be a screen capture, not a written document, because that's the other thing that overwhelms people. To go, do I have to write all this stuff out? No. Just do it. Go on the website, show the back end, show me how you logged in, show me how you get to this page and that page, cut it up and go, hey, this is the front page, next video. This is the about page, next video. Here's the contact page. And then head them all that way. And then all you have to do is link them to a spreadsheet that says website, front page, back page, whatever. And so you've got it all there. So don't overthink it. But here's the other thing, our other rule of thumb. Find somebody younger than you, either in the building or that you can outsource to. There are thousands of people that you can outsource to that are younger than you, preferably in their 20s. They will get this so fast. This makes sense. They are systems people. We rail the millennials. We rail the Gen Zers. They are smarter than we are. I'm 49 years old. They're smarter than we are as it relates to this stuff. They're very intuitive. So don't be afraid. That's the reason now we've got one company. They've got a 64-year-old director of construction and a 23-year-old director of marketing. Same level on the org chart, same authority level, same comp structure level, 4 decades removed. It's the first time in human history we've ever had that span, by the way. Find somebody younger. They intuitively understand process.
Yeah, that's great. And then, like you said, you give them those instructions, you give them sort of the detail level. And I know we talked about it for training, and you kind of alluded there into like linking it to, okay, here's all the processes, and we link it into like a training document. But how do you tie this together? And do you tie it together differently for different purposes? So for training, I assume it might be like a knowledge article or a wiki or something like that. But if I'm going to use it to solve a problem, configure a new system? Do you think about it differently? What do you do with all this captured data once you get it typically?
All right. So instead of reactive training, we've opted for proactive training. Here's what I mean by that. We've got a tool that we have. It's on a spreadsheet. It's called the Anchor. Now, we used to call it the culture calendar, but then we realized that our business owners thought it was just for birthdays, anniversaries, and special events. We're like, no. Culture is so much broader than that. And so we took the easy way out. And instead of trying to re-educate on what culture actually is, full scope, which would have been a massive uphill battle, we just called it the Anchor, like a climbing anchor, the anchor that's at the top of a stone wall, and all the ropes come down from it. You got your marketing rope and your sales rope and your ops rope and your admin rope. And so on the spreadsheet has 2 columns. That's it. And I say 2 columns. It's got the vertical across the top. Those are the weeks of the year. That's all you put up there. There's 52 of them. And on the left-hand side, you've got every ingredient that you want to embed. So let's take that segment of training. That's a big ingredient that you want to embed, and there's little subsets of that. So on our Anchor, we have a whole section on training. We've got a line item for marketing training, a line item for sales training, for coaching training. That's what we call operations. A line item for admin training. And then we've got one other, I forget what the title of it is, but there's a 5th one that we have there. And then throughout 52 weeks, every training that we have, we just dot along the 52 weeks. So like this past Tuesday morning at our team meeting, our director of administrator, taught us on payroll. Payroll. Well, don't we all know payroll? Yes, but we forget. Next week, she's teaching on dress code. Yes, we're a 12-person firm. We have a dress code. It's in our handbook. But we never, and guess who doesn't know about the dress code? I don't. And I'm the one who wrote the handbook. And so I've got to be reminded of these things because I forget as well. And so we proactively train by mapping it out 52 weeks of the year in each one of those verticals. It's really not that hard. Again, we did it all on one spreadsheet so that you can just go. Now, every Tuesday morning, we have a team leader. I don't lead any of our meetings, by the way. We delegate all of that, and it's a great leadership growth opportunity. And so we have one of our coaches this year that's leading our team meeting. He's actually the same guy that led it last year. He did so good, we wanted him to do it again. And about 8:22 in the morning on a Tuesday morning is about when he gets to it. He opens up the Anchor, and he goes over to the week of the year and just goes down and goes, all right, guys, we've got team meeting this week. We've got coaches meeting this week. Check-ins are next week. Oh, it's so-and-so's birthday this week. Okay, training time. Ashley, why don't you teach us about payroll? And then we just go through it that way.
Okay. And so a lot of that, then it sounds like when you get all this process information, you keep it alive by just bringing it to the forefront is what I'm hearing.
If you're doing a sourdough starter, you have to keep feeding it. You feed it. Yeah. That's what it allows to quote what you said, stay alive. I think that's a great use of verbiage around that. And so that's what we're doing with that Anchor is we're feeding ourselves with this training that we've already built. We might as well use.
Okay. And then when you put this in other companies too, there's a lot, this could be a whole other podcast, but do you find that it's just having that, what I call transparency to processes and just having that sort of process mind in the forefront, it just solves a lot of company problems organically? Is that sort of the idea that you're seeding in clients?
So here's the other thing that we found about that. One thing that we've learned, we just uncovered this about 2 months ago. Problems will never be solved. Leadership is the equipping and the sharpening of knowledge tools. That's ultimately what leadership is. I'm going to lead you and I'm going to equip you with knowledge tools, and I'm going to continue just like you do at home before you cook. You get that little sharpener out with your knife and you sharpen it every time. You don't do it once. I do it every time when I'm cutting vegetables or whatever. I sharpen it. That's what leadership is I'm going to stock you with knives and sharpening tools, and then we're going to actively sharpen those things, and you are going to go attack that problem every time it comes up. So notice my use of language here. Every time it comes up, it's circular. Problems do not go away. We did a peer group last year with about 12 of our clients. They were in 3 different peer groups between those 12, so 4. And these are clients that have been with us the longest, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And so we did those peer groups. Every 2 weeks, we would have them fill out a form that was it was a challenge form. Hey, biggest challenge that you're facing right now, et cetera. So we capture all that data on a spreadsheet. We pulled it, ran it through ChatGPT and said, hey, what are the big 4 themes that came out of this? And so it gave us the big four themes, of course, hiring, cash flow, same stuff, right? People, money, people, money, people, money. And so I sent it back out to those 12 clients. And I said, what do you see here? And I will never, ever, I really don't think I'll ever forget this question I got back from our longest serving client here at BOP. He said, do these problems ever go away? Oh, no. Chaos prowls like a lion. It's looking to devour its prey. And as soon as you think you beat it, all you did was march it back into the woods, and it's just going to come out another way. And so really what process is a way to equip with knowledge tools. Those are knowledge tools, processes. So we're equipping you with those. And then we need to take those processes and proactively sharpen. My knives do not come out of the block sharp. I have to take the sharpener and the knife and sharpen it down every single time. And so that's what leadership is where we equip and then we sharpen over and over and over again so that we empower others to go handle those perennial problems, the ones that are just going to keep coming up. But instead of facing them with exasperation and exhaustion, they face them with equipment to go, no, that's what I'm doing. I'm in the military. What do military people do? They fight. That's what they do. So they're not looking for fights. They're trained to fight. And so that's what we're training our team to do, is to go attack these problems. And that's our job as leaders to do it, but we cannot do it without capturing process.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Scott. This is what I call this. This is sort of another way around, like process-centric leadership. Lead with knowledge, lead with process. Because like you said, it's especially the problems keep coming back if you're scaling. That means you're doing a good job. But scale brings these problems around and around. So I love the way you're thinking about it. Love the way you articulate it. And I think that's a great end note. If anyone wants to find Scott, he's full of great process tools and knowledge. What's the best way to contact or find you?
Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. I appreciate you asking that question. So we actually have an assessment that will give you a metric evaluation of the back-end process health of your business. And so cool little assessment. It takes about 5-7 minutes, totally free. And so if you just go to mybusinessonpurpose.com/healthy. So mybusinessonpurpose.com/healthy. It's called a healthy owner assessment. You take it 5 minutes, answer it honestly, and it will give you a numerical value between 0 and 45 of the back end systematic and process health of the business.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks. And that's the best way. So if you're wondering, or if you're thinking about working with Scott, it sounds like take that assessment, and I'm sure that will lead you to all the other resources you need.
Absolutely.
Scott, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you sharing your background, your experience, and I just love the way you're thinking about process. So for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Process Lab. I hope you got a lot out of it, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Scott.